Dr. Adriana Popescu here with you today. We're going to be speaking with Ellen Wier. She is a renowned spiritual coach, sound healer, intuitive, and board certified music therapist with a powerful story rooted in her near-death experience at the age of 12. After being kicked in the head by a horse, Ellen journeyed beyond the physical realm, encountering profound spiritual lessons before being drawn back to her body through the healing power of music. Waking from a coma to the sound of music inspired her to pursue a career as a music therapist. She has a master's in transpersonal psychology. Whoop, whoop. I have my doctorate in transpersonal psychology, so I'm excited to talk about that. Ellen specializes in guiding others to connect with their higher selves through high frequency modalities like crystal singing bowls, angelic messages, deep meditation, and altered states of consciousness. She regularly leads transformational workshops, which is how I met her, and her powerful near-death story has been featured in the award-winning film Beyond the Grave and on her YouTube channel, inspiring countless individuals on their spiritual journey. Welcome, Ellen.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for
I'm
having
so happy to have you here. It was such a joy to meet you actually fairly recently, just a few
me.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
We met at a workshop where you and your partner provided this amazing breath work, sound healing experience, which for me was extremely profound. Maybe we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But I would love for the audience to first get to know you a little bit and about your story. How did you end up doing this work? Yeah, I don't think you anticipated that your life would go this track. I've been reading your book. You were definitely not on this track early on.
Right. I was just a kid, and I loved horses. And that's how it kind of all began. I was riding a horseback lesson. It was my first Western lesson. And so coincidentally did not have a helmet on because back in the day, they didn't require that. Right. But the cinch was loose on that particular day and it slipped. The horse got spooked. Um, the saddle slipped and I fell off, and then the horse reared up and kicked me in the right temple. And I was taken to a hospital, local hospital with a head injury, and then taken to a bigger hospital in the Dallas area in Waco. And that's kind of where it all began. At this hospital, the neurological team was they invited my parents to play something at my bedside to try and inspire me to wake up or stimulate the mind. And on this day, they chose a movie that was mostly classical music. And that's kind of where it all began. But I found myself on a raft of sorts. And I don't know if your audience can see, but I kind of tried to depict it on the cover of my book, this wooden raft, right? That I felt myself on, and I was standing in front of Ascended Master Jesus, and there was another Ascended Master on my left who I didn't know at the time because I was just a kid. My experience was so beautiful. It was absolutely amazing. I would describe it as traveling to different light realms. The first realm that I experienced was very white and had different colored streams and trees and music that I'd never heard before and haven't since. It was beautiful and oh, so loving. But the light realm that really I think of when I think of this experience was all golden light. And I remember not having a body, not having any human concept, just being complete love, complete acceptance, complete wholeness. There was no one way, there was no concept of even labeling in this place. It was just it was more of an experience than anything. And the way I describe it is there was this fullness to the energy. And even though I didn't have a body, I felt the warm pressure and fullness of this love until I became that. I had the experience of expanding into the love where every answer is there, everything is known, everything is love, everything is wholeness. And it was the most beautiful experience I've ever had. There are no words to describe it, but I think I was meant to experience that before choosing to come back, which was the next part of my near death experience. I was back on the raft. There was unspoken communication between Ascended Master Jesus and me. And I was invited to either stay or come back and live. And it's all about free will. And that's something that I still connect with, that concept of making the soul decision, using free will in order to lift our consciousness. So I really wanted to stay. It, to be honest, at first I wanted to stay, but like many other experiencers who are given a choice, I was shown the trajectory of life if I were to stay versus to go back and live my life on Earth. There was no right or wrong whatsoever in any of this because the universe would have self corrected. But I did see that it would greatly affect my father's path and my brother's path on this planet. And my soul chose to live in that moment. So the moment I chose to live, that's when I got all the human feeling. That's when I got gratitude and the gift of knowing that it is a gift to be able to live. It is a soul gift to be able to come here and expand our light and live through this experience of connecting to the greater light. So I received so many messages in that moment. I could have been there lifetimes, but I remember knowing all at once that most of what we think about on this planet doesn't matter, that it's a distraction from reality, which is the love and the light on the other side, that this is an illusion, that this is a practice ground, this is a training ground, this is an opportunity to become that God self. And that and I remember thinking like, wow, nothing that I thought mattered matters, right? So once I made the choice to live, I realized this validation that our thoughts create our reality, that we're meant to co-create, that we are far more powerful than we ever know. And I knew that it was a gift. So I gave a vow in that moment. I vowed to come back and heal people with music. That was my vow. And then a secondary vow of I will give gratitude every day for every experience, knowing that each experience is an opportunity for me to move closer to that divine self, to that light. And that's when the miracle happened. I was taken into the darkness. I saw a music staff in the distance, different colored notes for each pitch, right? But I couldn't hear anything. And then that whole musical staff kind of went through my essence, and I heard a tiny pinprick of sound, which also was like light. And I focused all of my being on that sound. And what went from almost being inaudible became so loud that the only way I could escape it was to force my eyes open. And I don't want to gloss over this because it was actually very, very, very challenging to bring that music into consciousness at a physical level. And I think that I was pulling myself back into my body through the music. If I were to guess at this point, that's what it feels like. And it was equally as hard to force my eyes open. And that's when the nurse came running over and I saw the credits of the movie on the little rolly cart next to my ICU bed, and I could see myself in the ICU, and then I blacked out again. And that was my near death experience and my vow, and that is why I'm here today.
And it wasn't, I mean, what a beautiful experience, and we often, those of us who have not experienced that, will often hear these stories and think, wow, I mean, clearly you were like forever transformed from that. And
Yeah.
some might have the impression that your life might have from then on been light and love and sunshine and roses, but it wasn't that, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I would love to hear more about, if you're willing, to share a little bit about that part of your journey, because I think for me, hearing that when I'm reading your book, it makes your experience much more relatable. Like you had something, an experience I don't remember having this life.
Yeah.
um and you have access to such, beautiful things now at this stage of where you're at, but like you also went through some darker stuff, and I feel like so many people can relate to that.
Yeah, I did. I have chronic Lyme disease, though it's in remission. And I'm very thankful for that. I went through the process of recovering from that, not knowing what was going on medically for all those years. And and then I also went through a very unexpected and traumatizing like end of marriage. So I had three youngish children, and I wasn't expecting it, yet it turned out to be the best thing that could have happened to me. But in the moment that it happened, I was so devastated. The only thing that I knew to do from my near death experience was to turn myself back to my higher presence, to dive into the shadow work, to move into that. And the book is really about how we can use these experiences of contrast, these experiences that our human might find as devastating, and see that we're always on the path. And it's an opportunity for us to move into something far greater than we could have imagined. And so, through the process of all of these things that I went through, when I finally surrendered and allowed my presence to come through me and released any idea of control or what the future would look like, that's when I stepped fully into this path that I'm finally really in now. And that's also how I learned to manifest. So, this manifestation tool comes kind of later in the book where people can learn how to manifest, how to use a life map, how to create a life map, how to manifest love, how to live fully in like partnership with our God self, our higher self. And so to me, the more that I do this work, the more I realize it's not just about bringing people healing through music. It's about using music and music programs and altered states of consciousness and breath work and all the things that have come through, channeled to me through these experiences of life to help them connect with their God presence, their high presence, so they can receive the information that they need from their own higher knowing, which is far more powerful than anything that I could ever give, right?
Mhm.
And I and that's why now I hold back the messages until I work with a client for a while and let them get their own messages. And I'm taking notes, as they journey. And then at the end, I share my reading and say, these are the things that came through. And it's always powerful because it resonates with what they've gone through, but they get to experience it for themselves. And there's no doubt too. So
Wonderful. So fabulous. What a gift, Ellen. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to hear what's coming next. But thank you so much, in advance for being with us today, for offering your gifts, your presence, all the wonderful information and energy that you shared with us. Truly, how special. I'm super grateful.
oh, it's my honor, absolute honor. I love chatting with you today. Thank you for having me. And I can't wait to know you more. Love it.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.